Crypto is pumping. I want to talk about this. There are three main reasons why this is happening, and I think it is always relevant to know what's happening. So that way in the future, you can see the things happening behind the scenes and then maybe get in a little bit earlier than if you had just been sitting on the sidelines. Now, crypto obviously has been down a lot over the last 7 days or so. We were down to 27,000 from about 31,000, almost 31,000. Now we're pumping back up really aggressively here. So I'm going to talk about that. Please hit the subscribe button underneath the video. Turn on that bell notification so you know right when I post future videos. I'm also going to talk about a couple stocks through towards the end of the video. They're moving up pretty big here today in the last 24 hours. So stay through to the end. There's also a link down there to the Patreon in case you want to know what I'm buying and selling. And there's a link to Webull underneath the video as well in case you want free stocks. Just deposit any amount on the platform. It's an easy $30, $40, $50 just for doing a couple minutes of work on your phone. So definitely check that out underneath the video. As you can see, Bitcoin almost at $30,000. Ethereum up at 1960. In the last 24 hours, Bitcoin dominance has spiked up. It's up 9%. Not the dominance, but Bitcoin's up 9%. And you can see this chart here of Bitcoin dominance spiking up. And as you can see here too, we've been bouncing off the same level. I accidentally moved it, but this is a previous level that I had set because I had seen some support here. And you can see we pretty much touched right below it, and then we're starting to move up to the races here as Bitcoin's spiking. And right now you can see about a $1,000 move in an hour. Big move there. If you had gone long, you would have made lots of money. Hundreds of percent returned, most likely, depending on when you got in and then how aggressive you were. There are a couple different reasons for this. In yesterday's video, I talked about how First Republic Bank was basically sounded like they're going to get taken over by the feds here soon or by the government here soon. It's down 15% in the pre-market. Yesterday, it was down 50%. And I gave some of the reasons behind that. The main reason is because they had earnings on Monday, I believe it was, and they had a lot of money flowing out during the quarter. They said that they had lost about 35% of deposits. They had 104 billion, but then they had a little footnote that said 30 billion of that was from other big banks. So they really had about 55% of their deposits leave over one quarter, and a lot of the cash that they had was because of federal assistance. So a lot of people worried about this bank. There have been some rumors that the government was going to seize the bank and that there are bankers working with First Republic, and they're the ones that are kind of leaking this. So I'm curious as to when this will happen and if it will happen, but this is going to happen apparently after the private sector has exhausted their solutions. I don't know who would really be willing to touch this at this point when they're seeing 50% deposit outflows in a quarter. Maybe someone's just crazy enough, but this sounds like another smoking building. Basically, if there's smoke, there's fire, and there's a lot of smoke when a company like this falls down 65% in 2 days, in 2 trading days. So be careful out there. But that, as we can see from last time the bank started to fall, can fire up Bitcoin. It can push Bitcoin higher when there's fear about the banks. And that's when we saw about a 45% run when a bank previously, or a couple banks, fell in Silicon Valley Bank and Credit Suisse. So that could be giving this some more fire. Another thing is we're seeing some short liquidations. 43 million in 1 hour. 43 million basically of shorts most likely pushed up the price of Bitcoin about $1,000, along with other traders that were getting in, seeing the momentum, riding it up. And as we can see here, we actually had more shorts liquidated over the last 24 hours than longs for the first time, in a while. Most of the last week, we've seen just a lot of long liquidations. So that's also pushing up Bitcoin and crypto. And then we also saw a bounce off the 50-day moving average. Some people are expecting us to go back above the 30K mark. This is actually my brother-in-law, Financial Success. If you haven't followed him on Twitter, I would highly suggest it. Here's the 50-day moving average. You can see a pretty clean bounce. Of course, we wicked below it a couple times, but bounced right above it, which is pretty positive. I can see why people think we're going to go back around 30K or even further. We also have a couple big things happening throughout the rest of the week. So those were the three main reasons that Bitcoin and crypto are up right now. Bank collapsing, a strong technical indicator, and also just a lot of short liquidations. But we do have some big earnings later this week. Yesterday we had Microsoft, Alphabet, Enphase, Visa, Microsoft, I already said that, McDonald's, GM, UPS, Verizon, a lot of big companies there. Today we have Meta, Roku, Teladoc, tomorrow Amazon, Caterpillar, Intel, Snapchat, MasterCard. So a lot of big companies. Google and Microsoft both had really good earnings yesterday. Google shot up to about 5% up. It went up to about 109. Now it's about 1% up in the pre-market. As people read through these reports a little bit more, I think they become a little bit more level-headed. But basically, Google had a good earnings. They had cash flow positive quarter for their cloud business, the first one ever. They also are growing revenue in their cloud business by still 28%. They also approved a $70 billion buyback, which is about 5% of their shares. And free cash flow also was a record for the first quarter, a first quarter of the year. So overall, the company had a pretty good earnings, but the search business barely grew year over year. And they still have a lot more to do with reducing their headcount, in my opinion. They still have a lot of employees. Now, they did have to take a hit for the first quarter on some severance and some stuff like that for their employees, but I would expect them to continue to reduce headcount. Microsoft is also up a lot in the pre-market. They're up 8%. They had a double beat, and operating expenses actually slowed down at the same time that revenue reaccelerated. Azure also grew 27% year over year. It looks pretty expensive, in my opinion, now at about $300 per share. It's around a 31 price to earnings ratio. So expensive for what Microsoft is, but there's a reason it's expensive because it's just a beast. They're still able to grow consistently, even with as large of a company as it is. And, you know, they have great margins as well. They return capital to shareholders with stock buybacks and dividends. So I understand why it does sell at a premium. Now, Google, on the other hand, is a lot less expensive, 23 price to earnings ratio. I'll be interested to see how this trades around today if people get excited again with their quarterly results and they start buying it up a little bit more. Now, this also has caused Amazon to go up as well between Google and Microsoft, having strong numbers on their cloud business. I think that's pushing up Amazon. We'll have to see, though. In 2 days, they have their earnings. Now, thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on crypto underneath the video. Are you pumped up about this market pump, or do you think you'd rather have had it stay a little bit lower for longer so you could buy a little bit more? Let me know in the comment section, and if you've made it this far in the video, leave me a thumbs up down below in the comment section. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.